McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Do you have any stories? If you have any ghost stories, did you ever see a ghost? Do you believe in the afterlife? Do you think people come back to life and they haunt a house? Ooh. Or, indeed, what were your Halloween traditions as a child? They're very different to the traditions we have now when you look around us. Nowadays, it just seems to be to startle people with bangers and fireworks. In our day, it was a bit more traditional, wasn't it? We didn't have the fancy costumes that kids have nowadays either. Your father or mother would throw you in a black plastic bag and pretend you were a witch. Or my ma would get one of my dad's old suits, put a few rips and bit of dirt on it and send me out as a tramper or something like that. So what did you do in your Halloween traditions? And what traditions did you have in the house for Halloween? All those traditions are gone. The barn brack with the ring in it, I don't think that exists anymore because they'd be afraid kids would choke on it. Or your mother would put 10p in a bit of tin foil and put it in the dinner. The cold cannon, as they used to call it, and the potatoes on Halloween. So tell us your traditions of Halloween and tell us, do you believe in the afterlife and ghosts? Let me go to Chris. Chris, hi.
Hi, Niall.
Happy Halloween.
Same to you. Listen, before we go anywhere, how are you doing with the cigarettes?
Oh, you don't want to know, Chris.
I'm the one that told you I'd go out them with you.
I know. I'm not going to lie to you. I was supposed to have a meeting with the Alan Carr people Saturday before last, but it's a 5-hour session. It's a 5-hour session, and unfortunately that day I had a personal issue to attend to, so I couldn't do it. So they've promised they will do it with me again.
That's an excuse.
I know.
Don't give me that rubbish. I felt for that when I had to go to a funeral, so I had to have a smoke with this stuff.
No, you're right. It is an excuse, Chris. I'm not going to make excuses. Yeah.
I'm the one that texted you that you should have got the Jerry Ryan show.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks, Chris, for having all that faith in me.
Well, I did. Did you get it?
Yeah, I did. Thanks for having the faith.
I was the one that said anyone should have got it. You should have.
Thank you, Chris. So, Chris.
No, I mean that, and I meant that. I'm not being a licky. I just, your program should have been in the morning where you would have packed. I mean, RTE, they made $1 million with advertisement with Jerry Ryan.
Well, they did. They made a lot of money out of Jerry Ryan. They did.
Lord of mercy on him. I thought he was great now, but the way he died was his own business, and that's another nice walk.
Yeah.
Now, talking about, I'm 62 years of age. Halloween to me now. When I was young, I lived in North Great Georgia Street.
Yep.
You probably know it off Parnell Street.
I do. I know exactly. That's where, what's his name lives there?
Senator David Norris.
David Norris.
3 doors away from me.
That's right, yeah. He does. Yep.
Yeah, a gentleman as well.
Wonderful man. I hope he's well. He's been unwell a few times in the last couple of years.
I ring him now and again.
Yeah.
He's a very pleasant guy. Big into Joyce and all that. But anyway, but I remember going around knocking at the doors, and they used to have grushies.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
You know, it'd be a handful of pennies.
Yeah, they'd throw it in the air.
And they'd be killings.
They would, yeah. So they used to do that at weddings, outside churches and stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
do you remember?
That's right.
Yeah.
But the gas thing is, North Great Georgia Street, you have to remember, they were all tenement houses, and we weren't very rich in the 70s, you know.
Mm.
But the likes of David Norris or someone would throw out a handful of coins, and he'd give us an apple and few peanuts or, you know, all them nuts and things.
Yeah. By the way, David Norris living there all his life?
No.
No.
No, I was born and reared in 1961 in North Great Georgia Street.
Right.
And I'm 62 now, if that's correct. Yeah, no, right.
Yeah. It is correct.
Anyway, he moved in about, nearly 40 years ago.
Right, okay. He's been there a long time.
It was the only house in Georgia Street that had a phone. So if Mrs. Murphy collapsed next door, you could knock at David Norris and ask him, could you use his phone for an ambulance?
Right. And those buildings would be all quite old now, all those old buildings.
Oh, yeah. Well, the gas thing is, there's a lot of a lot of Georgian people I lived in it all my life, and Tony Gregory got my mum and dad a house just up off Dorset Street near Joe Triangle Pub.
And is there much activity of the spirit kind in those houses?
Well, I don't know. We never went into any of the ghouly ghosts or any of that.
No.
No, we weren't really. I tell you, the nearest thing was there was a man that lived up the top, and he was sort of a very always kept to himself. But when he'd go out at night, he'd give you the creeps. Now, he'd give you the creeps if you were 40 years of age, so mine being a young lad.
Yeah.
He had that look.
The look. I know the look you're talking about, yeah.
You say to him, good night. Good night.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I'm saying good night to him again. No, but I mean, and the gas thing is, afterwards, he passed away, and his funeral was packed.
That was probably a lot of people there to make sure he was dead. But by the way, I hate to be disrespectful to the man, but here's the thing: do you remember those traditions that your parents would have had at Halloween?
Oh yeah.
And what were they like?
My mother,
what would you do?
My mother going to Mercery, and she'd get apples, oranges, nuts, the whole shebang, make up little parcels. Because you have to remember there was about 60 children living in the houses in Georgia Street.
Yeah.
And they'd be knocking, and the minute my mother would come in, they'd be knocking again. And my mother would say, I might put an armchair out and sit out in the hall.
And you'd be worn out, a trail worn to the door, yeah.
Well, I know she had arthritis, so she was sick of getting up off the armchair and back and forth. My father was a barman, so he didn't see any of it. He was working nights.
And what about, did you play any games, Halloween games in the house?
Yeah, you did the apple in the bowl of water.
Yeah, I remember that. I was convinced my father was trying to drown me. Because his father, he put his hand. You'd have the hands behind your back. The apple would be in the bucket of water or the basin of water, and you had to bite into the apple. And then he'd be going, "Will you put your head down on the water?" And he'd be pushing your head down.
Yeah, well, maybe it was the only wash you had now.
Probably. So, Chris, stay there for a second. Let me go to Maureen. Maureen, hi. How are you?
Go ahead.
Hi, Niall. How are you?
Good. Say hi to Chris.
Hi,
Hello,
Chris.
Maureen.
Yeah,
Maureen. How are you doing?
What were your Halloween traditions in Cork?
In Cork, well, in Clonakilty, West Cork. Well, as a child, you see, I'm an only child, right? So I would have known what it would be like to be with siblings, but I had two granduncles that lived with us because my mother cared for them.
Yeah.
And it was just, the apple hanging down from the ceiling and one in the base, and then you had the barn-brack.
Yeah. Oh, this is the money in the bar. The money or the ring in the bar? No, the money was in the food, the dinner.
But the barn-brack those days are much bigger than they are today, like.
But there's no ring in the barn-brack, is there, anymore? That's gone, isn't it?
No, there is.
You could swallow
there
it.
There is still. It depends on what you get, which barn-brack you get, but they were much bigger in those days as well.
Don't correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think they put the money in the ring anymore, or the ring in the money, the ring in the brack. Sorry, no, I don't think they put it in because they're afraid somebody might choke and sue them.
Well, there was up until last year. One of my grandchildren got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, but in those days they had they had a piece of rag.
Yeah,
and they had a bit of stick. You don't have those now either. And there was a pea.
What was the rag in? Hang on, Chris. What was the rag in the stick for?
That was poverty, I think.
Oh, okay. And what was the pea?
Yeah, you grew up poor, yeah. And there was a pea as well.
What was that?
I forget what the pea was now, to be honest with you. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember that was for, but I remember it. I do remember it. And then my granduncles might sit down and, we'd be sitting maybe around the fire and they'd be telling me, not too many ghost stories, but they were more into the tales, the myths, the fairies and the leprechauns and
the white lady and the white and the
banshee.
The banshee. Sorry, Chris. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
There was a man you were talking about ghosts and spirits. I asked a man once, did he believe in spirits? He says, vodka, Jameson, whiskey.
yeah. I think you'd see a few ghosts after a few glasses of that, all right. Yeah, probably.
Well, I haven't drank in 17 years.
Yep. What was the place, of course, everybody talked about in Dublin was the Hellfire Club, which was up there in the mountains in Dublin.
Yeah.
And
I walked in the Welcome Inn in Parnell Street.
Yeah. Oh, what was the what's the name? Sorry for interrupting you, Chris, but it'd be close to you. The Black Church.
Black Church will be up the street from me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the story was, if you walked around the Black Church
We walked around
backwards,
10 times to see
ba-
the devil.
yeah, you had to walk backwards, didn't you?
Backwards or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you saw the devil. And say if you walked around it backwards 10 times, you'd see more than the devil. I'd say.
Yeah, but when I was thinking I saw the devil by just walking around it once.
Yeah, who was that? It was a Charlie Haughey or somebody you met, was it not?
Very good.
But still, stay there, Maureen and Chris. Margaret, hi, how are you?
How are you, Niall? Are you well? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Hello, Margaret.
Ooh, how are you? Hiya, guys. How are you? Happy Halloween,
How are
G.
you? Thank you.
Hi, Margaret.
Okay, Margaret, do you have a ghost story or something for us, or something creepy?
Well, now,
Yeah.
on the way, you know the way you come off the roundabout there for Dunnabate,
Yeah.
and you go on the Hearst Road,
Yeah.
right? The story is that's how they got the name, the Hearst Road.
How?
Was many, many years ago,
Yeah.
there was a person killed on the Hearst Road, and when they were bringing the coffin back into the church in Dunnabate, there was people going to a particular corner on that road to meet the body coming, and it was in the winter months, so it'd be like around now, you know, so it'd be dark early.
Yeah.
And when the hearse was coming, there was nobody driving the hearse,
Right.
but there was a coffin in the back.
Yeah.
And then when it went up the road and went over the bridge, right,
Yeah.
completely disappeared.
Oh, God.
Now,
Just vanished, like.
so yeah, so if you go on the Hearst Road at 12 o'clock at night and you come to this particular corner, they say even still today you can see it.
Oh, God.
But you must believe
Right.
now.
Wait, I tell you the story, right, guys?
How true that is or not,
Okay,
I couldn't tell you.
let me-
Because I've never seen it.
Let me tell you a little story, okay? So there was a story, it was to do with a guy in Dunnabate, as far as I remember. But he went to a show, and it was at a circus, where there was a guy who people kind of feared. He was meant to be a magician, I think. And he went in to see this magician one day, himself and his wife, and his son had just passed away. So the magician was up on the stage, and he said, I need a volunteer from the audience. So the guy said, okay. So he came up, and he up onto the stage. And the magician said, have you got a watch? And he said, yeah, just this one here. He said, it was my son's. He said he passed away recently, and I bought it for him for his birthday. And he said, can I have it? And he said, yeah. So he took it off. He says, don't worry, won't harm it. So he took the watch off him, and he put the watch in a bag. And he took out this big hammer, and he started smashing the watch on the table.
Watching the watch.
Yeah, smashing it. And then he went, shazagazam, shazagazam. And he emptied the bag, and all the bits of the watch all fell out onto the table. Guy was devastated. It was his son's watch, the only memory he had of him, crying his eyes out. He says, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, the trick went wrong. And he said, you better go back down to your seat. Oh, your man was devastated. The wife couldn't even console him. So just as he was leaving the tent, the circus tent, one of the guys, the porters, came over to him and said, magician wants to see you in his, his changing room. He says, oh? He said, yeah, he might want to apologise to you or something. He said, okay. So he goes back to the magician's changing room, walks in the door, and the magician says, take a seat. He said, okay. So we sit down. He said, listen, very sorry about the watch, he said. The man said, I'm devastated. He said, oh, that's okay. So with that, the magician reaches over, and there's a plate, and there's 3 donuts on it. And he says to him, here, take a jam donut. And the guy takes the jam donut. He says, open it up. And he pulls open the jam donut. And guess what was inside it?
The watch.
No, jam.
No, I'll give her up.
I just started telling this.
Yeah, but
See, it's all about the way you tell the story, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You had me on the edge of my feet.
Maureen was nearly pissing herself there. Sorry, Maureen, you okay?
yeah, grand. No, I remember my granduncle. See, because the people at those times now, Like for down here, for example, you see, would have been known during the time of the Civil War and that, like Rebel County, there was an awful lot of things went on, and he would have been out, maybe helping the farm or something. In that time, they walked night and day. But he was telling me the story. It's Jack O'Lantern. You've probably heard of it. And
Tell us the
that's my
story, go on.
granduncle.
Tell us the story.
Yeah, he was coming home one night, and he took a shortcut, as you would, through a field. If you're living in a country area, all the fields.
Yeah, you know all the fields, yeah.
Country. So he got in and said he'd take the shortcut home.
Yeah.
Well, he said he was about almost 2 hours in the field. He couldn't get out of it.
Why?
He knew where the gate was, but when he arrived at the gate wasn't there. Because this light was in front of him. And my granduncle said, I knew what it was. He said it was this Jack O'Lantern, right? This little fella, he's supposed to lead you astray, if you like.
Right.
But he knew where the gate was, and every time he'd walk towards the gate, and when he'd get there was nothing there.
Right.
So he was walking around around the field for almost 2 hours before he finally got out of the field.
And Margaret, do you believe in ghosts, Margaret? Sorry for interrupting you, Maureen, but do you believe in ghosts, Margaret?
I haven't seen them, but I you can feel a presence.
Yeah.
As if there's somebody kind of at your back, and you say,
Cool.
the way you deal with saying of, somebody walking on my grave. You know?
You feel a bit of a draft going through
that,
you. Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of a chill, and kind of when I get into bed at night, I tuck the duvet around my back. I swear to God.
Why? In case someone gets in.
No.
Why do you tuck the duvet at your back?
Because I kind of get a chill in my back. You see, when you're in the bed on your own, your head's very hard.
You probably just need an electric blanket. Can't beat an electric blanket. I've got
you can't have electric blankets. The second price of electricity.
But you can nowadays. The electric blankets nowadays are not as bad on electricity. They're kind of lower wattage. But I have an electric blanket.
Yeah.
I couldn't be without it. There's nothing worse than getting into a cold bed.
I
have to heat myself and carrying up. Do you know what I mean?
We used to play. I can do other things to hot yourself up when you stop now.
Well, we do them things too. But I'm just saying, you like to be warm when you're doing those things.
Get over.
You taste a chilly willy?
Yeah, you don't want to get a chilly willy, Maureen. You're right.
And it's your willy warmer.
Yeah, but Margaret, when you were young, what were the traditions at Halloween? What did you do?
Well, we went out, Mum, and then we'd go home, and then we'd sit and we'd have a little party. And then my mother used to do permanent night duty,
Yeah.
And my daddy'd be at home, and we'd sit at the table, and he'd knock off the light, and he'd have a candle lighting on the window ledge,
Right.
And he'd say, "Now I'll be back in a minute," and nobody moved. And the next thing he'd come in the door, and he had some stuff, and he'd put all stuff all around his face, and he'd have a black bag and his black trousers on him and black gloves. And next thing he'd come in the door, and
You said, "I'll shit yourselves." Yeah.
And we'd be all there. And he'd say, "Oh, Daddy, help us, Daddy, Daddy." And the next thing he'd break into a story. And the next thing he'd stick his teeth out. And the roars of us.
My dad had
he
had a projector, which was kind of a big deal in those days. We had a projector, the old 70mm films, and he had two films. One was, I remember, Frankenstein and the Villagers, and the other one was Dracula, which was Boris Karloff. And this was before they were on TV, and we had this projector, and he'd put it on a stand and pull a screen down. And all the neighbours' kids would come in, and he'd show this 10-minute film, it was only 10 minutes long, of Frankenstein and the Villagers. And we'd be terrified. We'd be having nightmares for days.
Yeah.
Stop. Derry-Ann, well, hang on. Derry-Ann, join the party. Join the Halloween party.
Yeah, hi. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Help the Halloween party. Do you remember we used to say help the Halloween party, not this trick-or-treat business.
Trick-or-treat.
Yeah.
That's the American, of course. We stole it, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I suppose the internet was bound to happen, wasn't it? Yeah, but go on.
Yeah, no, I've a ghost story that happened to me, and I, for about 2 years going back there, not that terribly long ago, I went house and pet sitting, And I did it in Ireland, I did it in England, I did it in America, I did it, you name it, I did it. Anyway, I happened to come upon this place in Kilkenny, and I met up with the people. And they lived in a very old house that was kind of half castle, half not. It was 17-something it was built. So I was minding 2 Rottweilers, geese, you name it, I was minding it. And I was also measuring the rain Comet Éireann, by the way, because that's what they used to do, so I had to do it every day. Mm-hmm. However, I was sleeping in this bedroom upstairs in this really old house on my own, and every night this merciful banging used to start happening behind the headboard. And I was going, oh, for God's sake, would you just let me go to sleep? And I got up one day after this, and I said, right. And I went into the room where the knocking was coming from.
Okay.
And I went freezing cold.
Yeah.
The hairs stood in the back of my neck.
Right.
And I said, oh, Jesus, will you just leave me alone? And I was there for 2 weeks. And then when the couple came back, I said, I know which bed he died in. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, I know which bed he died in. Who was he? And they said, did you not read the article we left side of your bed? And I said, I sure didn't have time to so many animals. And anyway, the story was the house originally was owned by this couple who employed a tutor from Kerry, who I think they only had one kid now, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
A private tutor. The wife in the house had an affair with him. And
there's always now an affair in it, isn't there? Does it go on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Bit of sex, bit of debauchery. Yeah, you
This
can't.
is true story.
I know. I'm just saying you can't beat mixing a bit of
Oh, no, you have to have that.
and an affair. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. So she decides to kill the husband, and she gave him rat poison, and he died in that room where the banging was coming from.
Where the banging was coming from.
My room.
Right.
And
You sure it
what
wasn't? Are you
happened
sure it
was-
wasn't somebody else having a in the room behind you?
No. And wait
See,
till
even
you-
Margaret gets that.
I'm telling you now tonight, this is documented.
Yeah.
This is documented.
Yeah. Are you listening to this, Maureen? You're terrified.
I am.
Yeah. Go.
No. I know what she's talking about. I've had it myself. I know what she's talking about.
Sounds like a bit of a
Do
happy house.
Do you have listeners in Kilkenny?
Do we have listeners in Kilkenny?
Yeah.
No, we're not licensed in Kilkenny.
Okay. Okay, because they would know about this story.
Oh, okay.
Your man, anyway, tutor, was accused of killing the husband, and the wife disappeared off somewhere.
Right.
And he was sentenced to death. So he was hung in the street somewhere in the gallows.
As you would.
And the priest, and the priest went to bless him when he took him down. And the priest discovered he wasn't dead. They hadn't broken his neck. Wasn't done properly. So he snuck him home to his house, got him back to full health, and allegedly he went to America. That is a true story.
Wow. There you go. Trust Terry Ann's come out with a really good one there. Maureen, Maureen, apart from your field fella, we haven't really had a good story from you yet. Is that the best story you can come up with in Clonakilty?
Well, what kind of story do you want to hear? Do you want to hear
ghosts, Maureen?
Well. Okay. So, one of my granduncles. Okay.
Yeah.
I was very close to him.
Yeah.
And he was in hospital here at the time. He was sick, and So this night, he died. What age was I when he died? I was about 13, I think. And I was in bed. And at that time, the house we lived in, they were just new houses that were built. They were the open plan stairs, the ones that were open back, the tiled.
Yeah.
They were tiled.
Yeah.
So my granduncle had a bad leg. You see, he was kicked by a horse many years before that, and he had a limp. So I was in bed, and I was reading a book, and suddenly I heard the footsteps on the steps of the stairs. And I listened, and I thought, well, I kind of listened first, and I went back to my book.
I can hear it.
So I listened again, and I could hear because Con had a slow walk, and he dragged the leg, the bad leg, right? So I heard it. I listened to the footsteps coming up the stairs. And I listened to them coming across the hall of the landing, and they stopped at my door. Well, I screamed that place down, and my father hopped out of the bed. And he came in, and he's searching the wardrobe, and he was searching everywhere. But that wasn't it. My father, God rest him, didn't believe in that kind of thing. He had never believed in it before, but he kind of did.
And do you believe it?
Before
Do you
he
believe
died
it?
himself. I do, Niall, I do, and I'll be honest with you, I do.
Okay.
And he said, my mother told me this after, he never spoke about it after, but my mother told me, when, funeral and everything was over and everything a couple of weeks later. So she said to me, remember that night that you screamed the place down? I said, yes. I said, because Granduncle Con was coming up the stairs. I said, I know he had a limp. I said, it was Granduncle Con. But my father had said to my mother, and Anne, he said, did you hear that? And my mother said, no. And she said, what did you hear? And he told her, and he said, I heard, he said, quite plainly. And he used to read as well. He was sitting in bed reading. No, he heard, Maureen, are you there, Maureen? Because that's what my granduncle would say.
But the ghost wouldn't say it like that.
Come in and he'd say, but no. He heard the voice, Maureen, are you there? Maureen. And that's when he'd come in, if he was looking for me, that's exactly what he'd say.
Are you there, Maureen?
Yeah.
Maureen, great story, by the way. Everybody's shitting themselves now. Thank you, Jerry Ann. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Maureen. And by the way, if you're at home at the moment and you're on your own, are you on your own in the house? It's very windy out, isn't it? Maybe those noises that you hear upstairs, as I said earlier on, they might not be wind. There could be somebody up there. Or if you're lying in your bed right now, is there somebody under the bed? Have a look. Put your hand down. Be careful, it might grab your hand.
Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.